This video is how to make an inlay retained fiber composite bridge structured on fibers from approximal cavity of molar to cavity of the premolar, where the first piece of fiber will be placed. Second piece of fiber will be placed to the bottom of the cavity between the abutments and one additional fiber to reinforce the pontic. We measure the fiber length of all of these fibers and pre-cut the fibers before placement of the fibers on tooth surface. Fibers we are using are everStickC&B fibers, which is packed to the silicone package. And then here we are measuring the length of these three pieces of fibers, cut the fibers with scissors, and then remove and release the fiber from the silicone package. So it's recommendable to cut all of these fibers before starting the actual placement, lamination of the fibers on a tooth surface. So this is the first piece of fiber, and as said, all of these three pieces will be cut before starting lamination. By these three fibers, we start to make the framework for the pontic. And we start the procedure by sandblasting the enamel and dentin surface before etching and priming and bonding for optimal adhesion. Selective etching is made for enamel, and the denting part will be bonded with self-etching primer system. Sandblasting, by the way, can be replaced by grinding the surface with diamond burr very smoothly before etching. As a bonding agent, we are using G-Premio BOND, which is a self-adhesive bonding, which will be applied both to the dentin surface and enamel surface. Excess of the bonding will be removed, and then the bonding surface will be fully polymerized by curing light. When we start to prepare the bottom of the pontic, which is quite often the most complicated part of the restoration, we can select two alternative ways to make the pontic. You can either make it directly underneath of the coming fiber framework or make it pre-made on top the fibers will be placed, which is the case in this case. You can make a hygienic pontic by help of this formed matrix band, or like in this case, we select to make an aesthetic pontic, which is made directly on rubber dam surface. So we are first placing amount of flowable resin on top of the rubber dam, which is making the base of the bottom of the pontic, like this. So we are spruing the composite to have the surface which will be in contact to the mucosa. Light cure it, and then this piece of bottom of the pontic composite will be attached to the approximal cavities with very small amount of flowable, ensuring that we are not fulfilling the embrasures and thus keeping good cleaning space for toothpicks or interdental brushes available after finalizing the restoration. So this is base for the aesthetic pontic. On top we will start building the actual framework with the fibers we have pre-cut previously. Bonding of all of these fibers to the enamel surface, dentin surface, and underlying composite resin will be made by help of microfiber reinforced composite, namely everX flow. Dentin shade in this case because we are willing to have a nice appearance for the entire restoration. So now we are placing small amount of everX flow, dentin shade, on top the very first piece of fiber, namely the approximal box. The approximal box fiber will be placed. The piece of fiber will be placed on desired location and thereafter slightly compressed against the underlying material, dentin and composite, with the help of the silicone package, and simultaneously light cured for a couple of seconds, after which we can continue by putting more fibers to complete the framework. All the gaps which can be now seen between the fibers and dentin surface are filled with flowable composite everX flow, and now we are preparing the surface for the second piece of fibers like this. Oh, now it's looking that it's a bit too long. Before making the final placing, we have to cut 1 millimeter shortening the fiber. Now it's correct in length, and then we start pressing the fiber smoothly against the underlying fiber material, again by help of the silicone package. And this is the main framework of the bridge work, and then we have to ensure that the pontic will be reinforced also, and for that we need to put a small piece of perpendicular fiber on top of this framework, which is going to support the coming composite pontic for delamination. And then please note that in all of these placement of the fibers, we are putting everX flow between the fiber layers, because that with the microfibers is guaranteeing the bonding of these layers strongly together. Now we have almost ready framework. Next step is that we seal all possible even microscopic gaps, which can be seen with the flowable resin, in this case injectable composite resin material from GC. And then gradually the framework with the sealing starts to look like a framework of whatever bridge work. In this case is the framework made out of non-metallic toughened fibre-reinforced composite material. Veneering of the framework and thus covering all the fiber parts is made in this case with Essentia composite resin, hybrid composite resin, suitable for nice contouring and for occlusal surface use in general. So I normally make the veneering tooth by tooth, starting from abutments, in this case from the molar tooth, contouring the occlusal surface, and then make it as ready as possible, and then going to the next tooth. To have nice looking appearance, natural looking appearance for the restoration, before light curing the veneering material, I prefer to use light curing paints, characterization colors, which are painted on the surface of occlusal surface before light curing. Before light curing means that we can slightly have this painting color to go inside to the composite resin, which makes color more wear resistant in long term. If there is too much color, you can easily remove excess of the color with these tiny brushes, single-use brushes, like you can see here, and have exactly the amount of characterization you are willing to have to be in the final restoration. Constructing the veneering tooth by tooth, cusp by cusp, makes the whole process to be well in control, and then also allows to cure the restoration in small increments, which ensures total curing time of all of the layers, including the fiber frame, to be long enough. Here we contour the occlusal surface of the premolar abutment in the same way, and then it will be characterized also in the same way like the molar was made. So basically this process is not making that much, if any, difference to the construction of inlay fillings, onlay fillings, or even composite crowns with a regular composite technology. Only difference is that we are building the missing tooth, and that part is supported by the highly tough long fiber reinforced composite framework. And now we are soon ready for starting to make veneering of the pontic, which reminds construction of the composite crown, nothing more difficult or complicated. In my case, I normally make the buccal surface and the occlusal surface at once, and then the last part which is built is the palatinal or lingual surface. Roughly taking that amount of flowable or resin composite what is needed to build the whole veneering of the buccal surface, occlusal surface at once, and start to contour it with hand instrument like this, building the buccal cusp and the occlusal surface to have the same contour, and then design what is now in these abutment teeth. And also in the pontic, it is preferred to use characterization paint to make the tooth having more natural looking appearance. And in all of these stages, we are trying to avoid that the composite is going to the embrasures and are closing these cleaning spaces, interdental cleaning spaces. So this is the first part of building the pontic, and then we will continue by making the palatinal surface, and in this case also the palatinal cusp. In certain cases, instead of using this kind of regular Essentia composite material, you can select some more opaque composite material to the very bottom layers, which will then eliminate, in some cases, grayish shadow coming from this translucent fiber composite framework through the veneering material. But as you can see in this case, with these layer thicknesses, we can nicely cover all of the fibers also in terms of optical properties by this Essentia composite. After applying the characterization paint, we start the final light curing of the restoration, and also for checking that there are no any gaps anywhere in the construction, especially between the natural tooth surface and composite resin, because if there are minor gaps, those are potential signs for secondary carriers. So we will now seal all gaps, whatever can be seen in this connector region, which combines the abutment and a pontic as a one bridgework. The sealing can be made with this normal hybrid composite like I'm doing here, or it can also be made by flowable resin composite like injectable composite resin. And after the sealing and final light curing, we start to prepare for mechanical preparation and contouring of the system, and gradually to smoothening the surface and then polishing the surface, and to have the whole restoration completed. So when and before we are removing the rubber dam and making the final mechanical finishing, we have to ensure that all surfaces are fully sealed. And if not, then we are adding some flowable composite to these critical parts. Mechanical grinding and contouring is made by diamond burrs. Surface will be smoothened by rubber cups, polishing rubber cups. And then we will polish the surface with diamond containing brush, which is used dry, not with water spray. So this is now the restoration before mechanical finishing. And here you can see the instruments what I'm using for finalizing it. Grinding, smoothing the surface and polishing with dry. And this is the final restoration with aesthetic pontic, which means that it's directly from the surface of mucosa, contouring the rubber dam surface. Interdental cleaning spaces are good, and then height, width of the connectors containing two pieces of fibers are ensuring mechanical strength for the restoration. And when it's made directly with good bonding to the enamel and dentin, we are having restoration which is so-called unibody restoration, which makes one entity from the supporting tooth to the framework and the bridgework pontic tooth, and then allows nice and long-term clinical success and durability for the restoration. So by these words, I wish you very enjoyable time to make composite restorations like this. Thank you.